Remember when podcasts were real? Me neither. Let me quickly just do one of these. Yeah, that's better. That makes sense. Yeah? Okay. Oh, geez. Hey. So yeah, obviously I'm drunk. Uh, I'm making this because I was like, you know what? I've been really in the mood to podcast lately, and um, I don't want to think about it and then like change my mind. So I'm just doing it. So, hey, it's been a while. How you doing? Good? No? Not really? Yeah, that makes sense. Well, if you're doing well, then that's good. I'm happy for you. I don't want anyone to not be doing well. I am doing okay, pretty good considering. And by I mean the world, not like anything hyper specific. Thankfully, everything is like generally chill. I don't know if I ever like talked about it on like formally on the pod before. I think the last time I did an episode was like March or April, but there were a lot of like family health problems that I had this year. They're not my health problems, but they are family health problems. So, I went a little crazy. Started making a lot of music, which is good. I'm gonna release a lot of music in the next month. So, if you're like wondering where I went and why I stopped doing that, it's because I've been auditioning for stuff. I've been working. I've been submitting things, hoping that I get basically one of my dream jobs. And I say one of because, like, you can't just have one dream job in life. I think that would be kind of sad. Um, Not sad as in, like, you're dumb if you think that, but life is really long. And if you have a dream job, I would assume that you probably would want to stop it at some point and do something else. Maybe not, but for me, I'm pretty focused on something within Hollywood, for the next 15 years, 20 years. And then, maybe even 30 years. And then after that, I would love to do like a food truck, like a restaurant or something like that. Um, well, we'll get into that when the time comes. But it's good to see you again. It's good to talk to you again. I had a lovely night. I just got back from having drinks with somebody that I worked with for a month. I work day job wise. I work for a an ad agency that puts on a conference every year. And the conference is called Black Week. And I am not Black. And yes, it is about Black people. And we celebrate that. And no, I'm not kidding. It's all good stuff. And no, yes, I'm not Black. But I am one of the only people. I'm part of it by default. It's not like I applied to something called Black Week and I beat a Black person out of the role. That would be kind of fucked up in a way, even though things should be merit based generally. But no, the way that it happened was that I work for an agency that is Black owned. And I put it in quotes because, like, it is Black owned, but like the emphasis has always been on diversity. And now there are I think Black people are still the minority in the place that I work. That's not to say that white people are the majority. um but anyway, it doesn't matter. The race stuff doesn't matter. Anyway, Black Week. I worked Black Week, and it was lovely. It was lovely last year, which was the first year that we did it. And it was lovely this year, the second year that we did it. Um, and yeah, I put on like a comedy show. I produced a comedy show, which was like part of an offsite thing. The conference takes place over here. My event took place over here in a different building, so hence the detail. And I worked with a lovely person who was at a um, another agency who's part of putting the whole conference on. And she is so lovely, and we had such a great time working with one another that we decided to get drinks. And I'm so glad we did, because it was just so sweet. And I love meeting people. It's like meeting people that you gel with for the first time. And by the first time, I mean like off the bat, like you meet somebody, you have great chemistry, and everything just kind of works out. And you kind of speak the same language despite being, different people from different backgrounds. And she is just so delightful. And we had a lovely time at the bar. And I'm so glad um, that she reached out to grab a drink. It's fun. She's having like a staycation, um, meaning like she lives in New York and she works in New York, and she is on vacation this week, but she's just like taking the time to like hang out with friends and go to museums and stuff. And like I think about doing that all the time, which like I won't, I'm gonna probably not probably, but I might be doing that very soon, because I'm gonna get laid off in about a month and a half, which rocks, obviously. um nah, but she's great. um she's great. We had a great time, and we did talk about the state of our careers. And i um I just submitted something. um I just submitted a writer's packet for a job that I want so fucking bad. And I want it so bad that I even did like a ritual about it this morning. Woke up, I set my alarm. My astrology app told me, hey, there's a new moon, and if you want to take advantage of the new moon energy, you got to do a ritual. And I said, well, I'm like a fan of God and the Lord, but um do you ever feel, does anyone listening to this ever, of the four people who listen to this, are any of you ever conflicted about your relationship with religion and also like witchcraft? Cuz like I think I've spoken about this before, but I'm like a closeted religious person, in the sense that I was raised Catholic. I am I got my, christening, confirmation, or christening, communion, confirmation. Uh I take walks, and I go to church sometimes, not like the mass, but the place itself, and I sit there in the church, and I just think about stuff, and I pray to my deceased loved ones and stuff. Um but I also like believe in, I believe in prayer, but I believe in like rituals too. And it's not that I like believe in quote unquote witchcraft, but it doesn't really feel like prayer when there's other things involved, and then you never say like God or Jesus or like amen or stuff like that. So I feel like anything that is kind of absent of religious terminology, maybe automatically in my mind is assigned the label of witchcraft, which might not be fair. But regardless, I did that this morning, and I put out a big blanket and I lit candles, and the app told me to you know they give you like these recommendations. They give you food, like these are like altar suggestions. They're literally called altar suggestions, and they give you food and herbs and flowers and just like objects essentially. to anoint, maybe, while you're doing this practice. And I gathered as much as I could from that list from my home. I didn't like buy anything specifically to do the ritual, but I gathered everything in my home that I had on that list in order to do the ritual so that I can get this job that I uh, submitted to, that I applied for. And it is, I will say that, you know what? I'm not going to say it. Um, no, I'll say it because I love and trust you. If I don't get it, I'm gonna be sad, but it's not, that's not gonna happen because I'm gonna get it. Because I did witchcraft and prayer about it. Um, and I'm clinging to that until further notice. And I'll let you know what happens for sure. You will definitely know if I got it. But um otherwise, it's just business as usual around here. Um, I'm doing all right. Kind of trying to, we're always trying to self motivate, improve our daily life, um, be better people, not lose our minds. I will say that, it's interesting, this relationship that I have with this person that I had drinks with tonight, from this other agency. Um, like I said, I had drinks tonight with somebody who I produced an event with. We work at separate agencies that founded the same conference. And the conference is like a new endeavor. So everyone involved is kind of like, um, part of this inaugural uh, effort. And therefore, people are hardworking, trustworthy, and close. Everyone that I work with at my agency is cool as fuck. Um, I love them very much, and I wish we weren't all getting laid off in a month and a half because they're all very real, cool people. And I mean that, like, they're real people, they're cool people, and I wish that we could like take advantage of the fruits of our labors because we've done such incredible work in the like 4 years that I've been there, 4 years. And the fact that it's all ending is not none of our faults. And I'm not gonna go into that anymore because I'll probably get fucking sued. But um essentially, the back to the person that I had drinks with tonight, she and I have been working on this since September 10th this year. And I don't know if you know anything about, if that date like rings any bells to you. I'm vaping one more time. Sorry. Um, September 10th is the day that Charlie Kirk got assassinated. And I've wanted to talk about this for a long time because it essentially made me, not a different person, but like, it has ignited something within me that has definitely been there all along, that feels good to embrace, but at the same time, um, it feels like very uncharted territory. So by that, I mean, since I started working with this girl, producing this event, in a very short period of time, today is the what, 20 fucking first, 20th? I don't know. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday night. Give me the date, computer. What is today? Today's the 21st. Yeah. So, um, Charlie Kirk was assassinated September 10th, and that's the day that I met her. And I was taking a tour of her agency where we were producing the event. And we were going through all the details, like what furniture we're going to, set up, and what food we were going to, use to cater, and who we were going to use. And it was also a comedy show. So, what comics there would be, and just all the details of an event. And you guys know that I am a comic, I'm a producer, I do a lot of things. And last time we spoke, I was in the middle of writing something very important, which I'm pleased to say that I've gotten very far, and there's a lot of updates there, but I actually can't get into that at all. But you will be briefed when the time is right. But anyway, back to this whole deal. Um, September 10th, I'm going through this agency, working out details, taking pictures, videos, trying to work the shit out, working in a very fast timeline. The day that I was there, September 10th, was less than a month from the event, which was October 8th. And if any of you have ever produced any events before, you would know that that's a pretty short period of time. It's enough time to get something done pretty well, but at the same time, it's like not quite enough to do, everything in the timeline that you might need. So a lot of things were rushed, worked a lot of late nights, whatever. But I'll never forget, we were looking in a back room at this agency where they had all this furniture. And I was looking at couches and chairs and just being like, thinking about the room layout and thinking about a million things at once. And the girl that I'm with goes, "Oh my God." She like looks at her phone. She goes, "Charlie Kirk got shot." And I go, "Charlie Kirk? Like the Nazi?" Like, you know? Um my idea of him was so I mean, I don't even know what to call it at this point. Limited is like an insane understatement. Um but my view of him was not favorable, to say the least. And so it's not that I was like celebrating it, but I was just like, whoa, like shot? Like, what do you mean shot? Right. So from that moment on, I guess that was like maybe 2 p.m. or so, Eastern Standard Time. I was just like I couldn't stop thinking about it. And um, those of you who really know me know that I post this like death bird. It's like a little flying cartoon of my face every time a celebrity dies. For some reason, I get death news before like anyone else that I know. And I just post it to people because I just it's kind of like, it's not that I like it. Like I don't like when people die at all, but I do appreciate, in a sense, the role that I fulfill in people's lives, where like um there's a girl that in this world who always has chapstick, and if you need chapstick, you know that you can, if you're at a place with her, you can be like, "Hey, do you have chapstick?" And she'll be like, "Yes, I have chapstick." And you'll be like, "Wow, that's that bitch who always has the chapstick." The chapstick for me is when celebrities die. Does that make sense? So I always, in a way, I always have the chapstick. So I was kind of like on a certain level being like, I hope I leave this meeting before he dies. It's such a shitty thing to say, but I wanted to like report on it earlier than other people, um, because I was like, report. I mean, who do I think I am? But I don't even know what else to call it. I don't want to say announce because, but I guess that's what that is. Anyway, I didn't want him to die because I don't want anyone to die. But I was also curious about like the nature of the whole thing, like, and as a left leaning person myself, I uh I heard that he got shot, and I thought it was probably an accident, you know? I thought this was an accident because people on the right love guns and have guns. Um, and not to make this like a left and right thing, that's completely opposite of what the rest of this is about to be. So if you're already like pissed at me for being like left right, like don't worry, it's gonna change. The trajectory of this story is gonna change. Not to spoil it, but like, um, you know, I was like, oh, what the fuck happened? I couldn't get out of that meeting fast enough just because I wanted to know what happened, and I didn't want to be rude and like check my phone and be like, I gotta go. I gotta go hang in the bathroom for 10 minutes and like figure out what happened to Charlie Kirk, a guy that I knew nothing about at all, other than the fact that people just made fun of him for being quote unquote a Nazi or like a white supremacist or a right wing nut job. Okay. So and it's so crazy. But yeah, I left that meeting and immediately I'm like looking on my phone, and my friend sent me one of probably many videos that were circulating at the time that showed like the full on murder of it all. And I just couldn't stop watching it, not because I liked it or because I thought it was cool or because it made me think anything good in any way. But I was just like, how is that possible? I felt sick to my stomach. I did not celebrate it. I did not think it was cool. It didn't make sense. Um, and even though at the time I had never heard anything good about him in my life, I still could not celebrate that because how could you? How could you confidently celebrate the murder of anybody? And even if he was a Nazi, which he's not a Nazi, he's not a white supremacist, he's not a white nationalist. I mean, he was a white guy who loved his country, but I don't believe that that is the same thing as a white nationalist, and we can get into that if you'd like. But they are definitely different things. The term white nationalist is very weird to me. Um, Lauren, am a white person who loves her country. I would not consider myself a white nationalist because that is pretty much synonymous with the term Nazi or, person who hates anyone other than uh, another white person. Um, or otherwise someone who thinks that everyone in the country should be white, whatever. It's every connotation of the term white nationalist is a disaster, so it's not something that I necessarily identify with, even though the terms white nationalist, um separate things are fine, right? I guess. So yeah, I couldn't think about anything else. And I had a full on breakdown that day. I was supposed to go back into the city because I went from New York to where I live. And I was supposed to go back like 2 hours later for a rehearsal. And I canceled it because I thought that I was freaking out. I thought I was going to get shot in the subway. There was another story that was circulating where someone in Flatiron got shot. And I was like, oh my God, Charlie Kirk got shot. This person in Flatiron got shot. I'm not fucking safe. Um, sorry, I was just turning my head because I was looking at a text that came in from my sister. Um, yeah, so I was just freaking out. I thought like, okay, I'm not safe. And then I just wanted to know who he was, like why when something crazy like that happens, because all I knew at the time was that he just got like he was doing a campus event. I didn't even know where it was. And then he got shot at the event. So I'm thinking like, oh, it's friendly fire. Someone accidentally shot him. And then I found out that he actually passed away. And I was just in shock. And I was like, wow, this guy was like a young guy. And even if it was an accident, um, that's mega sad and scary. Like, because if an accident like that can happen to him, it can happen to anybody. So, I mean, I don't want to beat it to death, but I was just like, I wasn't celebrating it. I was like, wow, that's a lot. If nothing else, it's a lot that he died. It was a lot. So, me being like the type of person that can't really rest until um until I find like answers about something, I started looking into him and who he was. And it was the first time in my life that I watched any clips of his because, like I said, my perception of him was that he was this like white nationalist, um, Nazi, racist, um, all the things that someone on the left would prescribe, assign to somebody who they didn't align with. And I mean, not to say that everyone on the left thinks that of the right. That would be very silly. I hope that's not true. That's definitely not how I think. However, I did not have any positive perception of him, and I I wanted to see just who he was. Like at that point, no one was even thinking. I was going to say malpractice. No one was thinking conspiracy or any kind of funny business of any kind at that point on September 10th. That evening, everyone was kind of just like, what the fuck is going on, And I can't believe he's dead. And I started watching his clips and his debates, and one day turned into 2 days, which turned into a week, which turned into like 100 hours. In probably in 2 weeks, I probably watched 100 or listened to and watched like 100 hours of Charlie Kirk footage for the first time in my life. I've never even seen clips of him before. Not even ones where he's like quote unquote slamming the libs or whatever the fuck, right? Um, so every day, and it's not like I watched these like because I was like, you know, I started out not being sad. It was like kind of an agnostic, like, what happened here type of feeling, like just trying to make sense of stuff. I don't even know what it was motivated by, maybe other than like shock and just being like, everyone's talking about this guy. Let me form my own opinion about this guy. And the more I watched, the more my heart broke. And I thought, wow, this guy was kind of an angel. And if you think that I sound crazy saying that, I understand because I understand how he's been painted throughout the years. But at this point, I don't know if there is a Charlie Kirk clip that exists that I haven't seen. And now it's been about a month and a half, a month and 10 days or so, a little over that. And I've seen pretty much everything, the good and the bad. And like when I say bad, I mostly mean unfavorable because I think he's said a lot of shitty things in order to make a point about DEI or, race related issues. But was the man a racist? No, he wasn't. And was he a bigot? No, definitely not. Was he a Christian guy who had very hard line beliefs about, abortion, obviously, of course. Um, and when it came to race, it wasn't ever about black people can't do this, or people of color, whether they're black or not, can't do anything. It was just a matter of, why can't we live in a society that is merit based, which makes complete sense. And I don't think that anyone I love would disagree with the fact that, like, I understand the case for DEI 100%. The fact that, like, black people and otherwise people of color have not had the opportunities that white people have had historically. Like, the argument makes sense to me. Of course, I would never fight against it. However, in a world where, like, Charlie Kirk famously made a quote about pilots, about black people, um, you know, I guess he said that if my, and this is a half quote, a misquote, whatever, but he was like, if I see a black pilot on my flight, I'm going to wonder if they're qualified. Out of context, very shitty. In context, if you're black, might sound, still shitty. But I believe that his point was, and it's not for me to say what his point was, but what I took away from that was, during a time, because the context of the conversation was that I don't know if it was like the pilot association, or if it was just one airline. I don't remember the full context of the whole thing, but he was describing a circumstance wherein the standards would be changed to allow more black pilots or more black people to become pilots. And, like, my question is, why? It doesn't matter to me who is a pilot. I don't think most of the times I fly, I don't ever really see the pilot until the flight is over. Sometimes they're, waving to you when you leave the plane, whatever. But, like, the race of the pilot does not make a difference to me. And I think, I think he was saying the same thing. And you could see the whole conversation for yourself. It's been clipped 1,000 times, and people have also discussed it and, like, nitpicked it 1,000 times. So you can also see, like, his words plus everyone else's, like, critique or dissecting of the line. But the point was that he was like, white people are pilots more often, potentially, because, like, they become pilots more often because maybe they want to be pilots more. And the case for DEI, which makes sense, is that perhaps if you had standards where you were required to hire more non-white people, that you would have more diverse pilots just in general, therefore creating a space where it is possible for more black people, Asian people, East Asian people, South Asian people, whatever, to, have that opportunity. In my mind, I don't think we're at a point where race matters when it comes to, like, taking the flight exam. I could be wrong. And racism certainly exists. I'm not saying that, like, racism isn't real or that we've solved it or, like, whatever. I think we've come a long way generally as, like, an American society. But Charlie's argument was that, in order to invite, not even invite is the wrong word, but in order to create a society where there are more black pilots, he perceived that you would have to lower the standards um, in order for people to like meet that criteria to become a pilot. I don't agree, but I see his point where it's like, do we really live in a society where black people are told that they are not allowed to be pilots if they want to be? Or is it maybe the case that there just maybe are more white people that want to be pilots and fewer black people that want to be pilots? My mother's babysitter was a black pilot, and he unfortunately passed away in 9/11. He was the pilot of Flight United 93, Leroy Homer Jr. God rest his soul. He was a black pilot, and I don't know what he went through to become a pilot. I know that he had a bunch of sisters. A bunch of them beat up my mom all the time. We talk about that from time to time because it's very funny thinking about your mom get beat up. And um, I don't know the racism that Leroy Homer encountered and overcame to become a pilot. But I know that he definitely became a pilot. He was a pilot in the Air Force. He um, was a pilot for United. He always, since he was a kid, wanted to be a pilot, and he used to build model airplanes with my mom when my mom was little and he was like 13 to 15. He babysat my mom for a long time in Long Island. And you know me knowing one black pilot does not negate the argument. And I didn't even know the guy, right? Okay, so don't say that I'm crazy. But the point is that I'm not trying to reduce or otherwise minimize the idea that it could be harder for black people to become pilots. But all of this is to say that the main argument about Charlie Kirk and him being like a racist guy came from like that black pilot argument. And I don't think that's right. And as someone who's seen at this point well over 100 hours of him talking, he's not a racist. He's not a sexist. He is not a homophobe in the sense that he thinks that like gay people are disgusting. He's just like a Christian guy who thought that, you know, it was a lifestyle, which is sad to me. I don't agree with that. I don't think that being gay is a lifestyle. You can't, you know, you can choose to not act gay, but does that make you less gay inside? Obviously not. And I think that a big problem with the right wing right now is how closely entangled they are with Christianity. And there should be definitely a wider separation between church and state. Like right now, I'm seeing, especially since Charlie Kirk died, there is this like Christ is king, which like sure, I do the sign of the cross all the time. Like I said, I'm like a closeted religious person. I'm not a God hater. I'm pretty much a God lover, but I do not think that religion should have this much like it should not take this much space in politics. Like we don't need everyone on the right wing and or the left wing or really anywhere in politics to always be like Christ is king. Like that feels alienating to me, and I think Christ is king. Like I don't think it's right to um to marry politics with religion in that way. I don't know. I can kind of low key go off on that for a really long time, but I won't today. I'll do that another time. Um but yeah, it's just the more Charlie Kirk I watched, the more my heart broke. And I thought, wow, my main takeaway is that we lost um one of the purest people in politics who was capable of reasoning with people on the left and the right. And he definitely had beliefs and a moral code that was radical in the sense that it is not like, it is not aligned with the mainstream. He was a virgin until he got married, typical Christian stuff. Um, saved himself for marriage, uh, does not believe in abortion. His ideas, every time he talked about abortion, he would always go, he would be like, oh, well, if the mother's life is in danger, then you could just do a C-section. Like, I don't, it always seemed very, you know, not to be reductive, but like the way that guys talk about abortion when they're not, on the left, they're kind of just like, oh, well, yeah, but it's easy. Just do this or just do that. Or, women are selfish. Why are you doing this? The abortion topic is so much more nuanced than people give credit to, on the left or the right. Like, I don't think that it should just be like a laissez-faire thing. I truly, in my heart, if you're wondering what I think about abortion, I think it is a tragedy, but it's a tragedy that you have a right over as a woman. Um, and it's just one of those things. I'm sorry. Like, uh, I have, I, the reproductive, the inner machinations of the reproductive system are an enigma. How about that? You know, I don't think anyone that I know who, well, I don't even want to say that. I was going to say, I don't think that anyone that I know who has gotten an abortion was thrilled about it. But at the same time, who cares if they were? Like, I, I think that, you know, when you have an abortion, you are killing a life. Of course you are. Are we crazy? But you have a right to do that as a woman because it's inside of you. And I think that it's kind of like a hard truth. Like, I am pro choice in the sense that it is really, to me, the only morally and medically sound position to take. To say that abortion is like never okay is a little wild and radical to me, especially in the cases, obviously, like rape and incest. Like, I feel like most people agree with that. And I think Charlie Kirk probably, I don't want to assign any kind of beliefs or assumptions to him in that way, but he was radical, and I disagreed with him pretty fundamentally, other than the fact that, like, it is a life that you're killing, and it is a tragedy. But, like, you know if I, God forbid, got pregnant tomorrow, I would probably have an abortion. And um I think that's okay, even though it would be difficult would be an understatement. And I don't think anyone takes the decision lightly. If they do, that's up to them. But it's your right. It's a tragedy, but it's your decision. Period. Obviously, you're killing something that's alive, but that's your right. I can't take that away from anybody, and that's how I feel. Is that, like, if that, to make that a political issue and not like a medical issue, like, why aren't we talking about, like, cutting the cord, not cutting the cord like umbilical cord, but like, life support? Like, why aren't we talking about that more? Like, that's killing. That's like another pro-life situation. But no, like, they want to make it all about babies and, you know life that can't speak for itself, and human rights and blah blah blah. But it's all, to me, that's bullshit. um it doesn't make any sense. And I think it's probably fundamentally a racist discussion, but we can get to that in another time. Not to say that my opinions are racist. I'm saying that, like, people who are fundamentally pro-life are low-key a little bit racist, but I'm happy to clarify those beliefs at another time. And I'm also open to changing my mind if I'm wrong. How about that? How about everything I say in this podcast is something that I'm willing to discuss with another human being and admit that I'm wrong about, or I'm happy to change someone else's mind about, because that's the way that thoughts should exist in the world. And that would be a great place to end it. But I don't think, I think I need a little, I should wrap up a little bit more. um, yeah, dude. Ultimately, I'm annoying. um, hold on. What kind of person, first of all, comes home shit-faced drunk and decides to sober up by doing a podcast for the first time in 6 months? Hmm? What kind of person does that? Me? Um. So yeah, I've watched so much Charlie Kirk, and my heart is broken because I don't think he should have died. And furthermore, I think he was murdered. And furthermore, I think that everything the FBI is saying about it is not true. And I feel as though the story is made up. And the text messages that were discovered between Tyler Robinson and his partner, Lance, or whatever their slash she her name is, um I think it was all fabricated. I think that targeting the left is something that the Trump administration cares very deeply about, and that they took advantage of this situation and or orchestrated the situation in order to incite a civil war between the right and the left. And the crazy thing, maybe even the craziest thing, is that the right, if the left even gave a fuck, the right is saying, hey guys, this is not of an issue of the right versus the left. They're saying, and by the right, first of all, I mean Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, um, who else do I even listen to on the right? Megyn Kelly, to a certain extent. I think that I don't respect or or like her as much as I like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, but um, I do like and respect Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. And I think that they not only, like, immediately after Charlie's assassination, but like throughout the whole discourse, have maintained the same idea that this is not a left or right issue. This is an issue of up versus down. This is class warfare. This is the rich versus the poor. This is the government versus the people. And compounded with the Epstein file drama and the lack of transparency that the government is providing, um, alongside these wild narratives um, about the Charlie Kirk assassination, it's making it very clear to people who are paying attention. I'd like to think I'm one of those people that this is a very obvious attempt to incite some kind of civil war between the left and the right. And unfortunately, it's most of the conservatives that I listen to that are saying, guys, it's not about that. Don't do that. Don't fight each other. The government is lying to us. We're not supposed to be fighting each other. There, we all need to find the truth, And ultimately, it was Charlie that got assassinated. It wasn't, Kamala Harris, God forbid, or anybody on the left. I don't want anyone to get murdered at all, especially not like that on camera. It was fucked up. And now I've seen it from every angle, and it's just so fucking hard to make sense of. But when you have people from quote unquote gun tube, people who served in the military, people who are like tactical weapons experts and ballistics experts, and maybe those are the same things. I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass, but people who ought to know a thing or two about guns, when they're coming at you and saying, hey, I voted for Trump, you know, every time I had the chance to, and I'm a diehard, Republican, and I know for a fact that the story that they're serving us is bullshit, and that it's not this guy who had no training to pull this off, couldn't assemble and break apart the gun. Like every single detail of this makes zero sense. None of it makes any sense. And I've done enough digging on the left side, the right side, and as many of the clear, clean government provided facts as like possibly ingest, while also having a day job and, a life and, whatever the fuck. All of this information that exists, it's just none of it points to what the government is saying. And that's incredibly scary. And most people who don't have some kind of political platform aren't really talking about it, because if you're supposed to be on the left or supposed to be on the right, you're supposed to have like a certain opinion and adhere to a certain narrative. And I think that very soon the party lines are going to dissolve, because the Charlie Kirk assassination and the Epstein files and the Israel Palestine war conflict, ongoing, fucking disaster, are all kind of doing that. They're all blurring the party lines. And most people are too exhausted to fight anymore. They don't want to do it. Nobody want to fight no more. Nobody wants to fight anymore. Everyone's like, we kind of had it in ourselves to fight like before and during COVID, because during COVID it became like if you were on the right, like you didn't want to wear a mask, like I don't want to take the fucking vaccine, I don't want to do the mask. And if you're on the left, you're like, no, believe in science, blah blah blah, but behind closed doors, me being like a mega centrist, not to like suck my own dick, but like I have friends on both sides, to say the least, and I consume a load of information from both sides to ensure that I'm getting the closest thing that I can possibly obtain, in the realm of like an unbiased news sources, to have an unbiased perspective. I just want fucking facts. I think most of us fucking want that. And now with the Israel stuff, the Epstein stuff, the Charlie Kirk stuff, it's like there's a lot going on that people are kind of coming around to the same conclusion, which is that it's not us versus each other. It's us versus the, I don't know if you want to call it the deep state, or the the elites, or the whatever the fuck. Like I hesitate to just say the government because I know people that work for the government and they're pretty much retarded. Sorry. But they are. And like, so am I. And so are most people. Like, just because you work for the government doesn't mean that you're like a fucking genius, is my point. Like, it's not that if you work for the government, you're stupid. It's that, like, at the end of the day, we're all just fucking people. And it's more than just like the government versus the average person. Um, it's the money. It's money versus less money, or versus no money, or, tech versus non-tech people. um Surveillance versus the masses. We're headed towards a really shitty and scary future unless we find the common ground between the left and the right very quickly. And fortunately, I don't think it's going to take a lot for us to start, like, not start, because I feel like we've already started, but for us to continue to share our common ground and get to a place of mutual understanding where we're helping each other, and um, getting to a more unified, happier place, which fortunately slash unfortunately, I think gets easier when we are facing a recession and mass surveillance and like all these like scary things that are just like fundamentally terrifying ideas. Whether you're on the left or the right, no one wants to be like spied on. Whether you're on the left or the right, nobody wants to be thrown in jail for no reason. Um, and most conservatives that I listen to aren't even like into Trump anymore, which is like mega interesting to me. Mega interesting to me. Sorry. Um, I'll vape on that. Are you annoyed yet? Wow, we did an hour, huh? Oh man. Yeah. I guess final thoughts. The world is terrifying right now, but my ultimate thought is that Trump is doing this on purpose to create mass chaos that he can control, so that ultimately he can come in and fix it in the end and look like a good guy and put himself in the perfect position to win and or convince the world that he deserves a third term. Um, which is a wild idea. I really hope it doesn't happen. Um, Not just because I don't think he should be the president for a third term, but because I don't think that we should just go and just like, destroy the idea that presidents should be limited to two terms. I don't think we're ready for that yet. I think that we should continue with the rules, and the rules are rules. And if he's going to be enforcing all these, border and immigration rules in such a fashion, then people should get pretty serious about the idea that, we do not need kings. We do not need a dictator. We don't need someone who just like never leaves office. That's crazy. Um, I do not support Trump. I support America. Uh, and this is probably going to rub people the wrong way, but I would say that I am America first, even if I don't personally feel as though I am aligned with the left or the right. I think that enough is enough with the wars and the foreign conflicts and the foreign money and the foreign investment and the foreign spying. And, I mean, we're always going to spy. I'm stupid. But the point is, when people say America first, to me, at least, that means let's take care of the people that live here. I don't mean white people, and I don't mean black people. I mean every citizen of this country, no matter what you look like. Um, and unfortunately, it probably does have to be limited to citizens. I don't think we should be treating non citizens like fucking dogs. I think that's crazy and inhumane and shitty. And what ICE is doing is abhorrent and scary. But at the same time, in general, America needs to be worried about our people. And we're putting so much money in places and businesses and ideas that do not serve us. Um, and if it doesn't serve us and it's putting us further into debt, then what are we doing? Does that make any sense to you? It doesn't really make sense to me. Um, I just want this country to be a safe and lovely and free, above all else, free place to be. So, I guess with that, I can probably end it here. But uh, if you disagree with anything that I've said, or you feel like you'd like to have a discussion with me, please hit me up. You can either comment on this video or you can email me at laurentriesit@gmail.com. That's LAURENTRIESIT @gmail.com. My Instagram is at Lauren Des Leroux, LAURENDESLEROUX. That's on Instagram. Twitter too, but I don't really, X, I don't really use that. Um, Email me, talk to me. I want to hear from you. And if you like this, let me know too, because it can be lonely expressing beliefs that you've never expressed to the world before. And I know that a lot of this was rambling, but it felt good to do. And I've wanted to do a pod for a while now because I think the more that we just let it out, maybe the more that we'll realize that we think alike, or we have more in common, or we can fix things, or fucking whatever. But ultimately, I don't hate anybody. And I don't love what's going on in this country right now. And I hope that we can get to a better place very soon. And I hope that we all stay safe and that things get better. So, no matter where you are, on the left or the right or the middle or somewhere else or another country or whatever, be kind to each other, listen to each other, and take an extra beat. If you hear something crazy, um, yeah, do your own research. I'm not talking about science. I'm not talking about COVID. I'm talking about politics. I'm talking about things that you can like find the answers to, left or right. Um, I use Ground News. I think it's really good. People have been advertising it on podcasts a lot, and I think it rules. So it's a good way to figure out where your biases are and how to kind of fill in the gaps. Make sure that you're getting all the news that you should be getting. So, love you guys. Good to see you. Let me know if you hear this, or if you disagree, or if you like it, or what football team you like, or what you ate for dinner, or whatever. Love ya. Talk to you sometime soon. All right. Peace.